grab your water bottles and hydrate because I know y'all are thirsty. Beyond the epic fight scenes and great acting, we have an incredible story of redemption. So let's all sit back, enjoy, and cheer for this post-apocalyptic masterpiece. Hi, Popcorn Recap here. Today, we'll talk about a 2015 action movie called Mad Max: Fury Road. Before we start, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you dig the summary to support the channel. Max wanders through a post-apocalyptic wasteland. He struggles with the voices in his head. Suddenly, he gets chased and captured by runway models in massive cars. He gets his luscious locks removed and gets a tattoo from the most unhygienic tattoo artist ever. As he's about to be branded, he manages to escape. However, he's chased by the hypoglycemics. He manages to climb up to the exit. However, he sees a vision of a kid nagging him about not saving them. Max runs again while fighting his hallucinations. He reaches the edge of a cliff and gets captured again. Immortan Joe prepares his crew because they're hauling some gasoline from Gastown and bullets from Bullet Town. The people cheer as Immortan Gaga appears on stage and thanks his crew, including Imperator Furiosa. Suddenly, he pours water all over the people. Immortan controls all the water there. Furiosa and the crew move out while the people fight amongst themselves. Meanwhile, Max becomes a universal donor of blood. Furiosa strays from the crew and orders everyone to head east. Meanwhile, Immortan and his sons, Rictus and Corpus, learn that Furiosa isn't going to Gastown. Immortan gets angry and runs to his super-secret hideout where he stores the very attractive women. He learns through an old woman that Furiosa has taken them away. Meanwhile, Nux hears commotion because Furiosa has gone rogue. Slit, Immortan's loyal underling, prepares to go, but Nux stops him. However, he's still getting blood donations from Max, so Slit discourages him. Nux asserts that they'll take Max along for the ride. Yeehaw! He headbutts Slit. Hey, come on now, no need to be violent. The Pale Boys ride with Immortan to find Furiosa. They even have their own rock band to hype them up. I freaking love this movie! Flares are fired from Immortan's crew and Furiosa's crewman informs her about this. However, she tells him they're taking a detour. Son, read the room! Suddenly, Furiosa's crew are ambushed by buzzards because they're in buzzards' territory. Duh! Furiosa manages to shake off the small buzzards. However, a large buzzard arrives. Meanwhile, from their flank, they get chased by Immortan's crew with Nux leading the attack. Max stares helplessly but fiercely at the commotion. Nux's crew gets rid of the buzzards. As he approaches Furiosa, she signals the women to move across the truck. Furiosa and Max make eye contact. You know, it's really pretty dumb that with all this commotion, Nux decided to put his body bag, the only thing keeping him alive, in front of his vehicle like a human shield. Immortan's crew approaches Furiosa. However, she's headed to a ginormous sandstorm. That's not a sandstorm, that's literally Galactus devouring a planet. Anyway, Furiosa's crewman figures out she's gone rogue and attacks her. However, she beats him up and swerves against Nux's crew. On the other hand, Max frees himself and beats Slit out of the vehicle. However, they enter the sandstorm and he's buffeted by the dust. Nux continues to chase after Furiosa through the raging sandstorm. Eventually, he releases the gasoline in his car and attempts to kamikaze his way to Furiosa's vehicle. Max realizes this. He punches through the window and stops Nux from igniting the gasoline. Suddenly, they get hit by Furiosa and they get wrecked. Poor Nux! Max wakes up, covered in sand. He tries to remove his shackles. However, he's stuck with Nux. He sees Furiosa from a distance, stranded. Max comes over with an unconscious Nux in tow. Oh, and a car door. Although expecting a fight, what Max sees instead are models washing. Oh yeah! Max points a gun at Furiosa and asks for water in his signature gravelly Bane/Cockney accent. Angharad gives him the hose. Max frightenedly asks for the shackles to be removed by one of the girls. Dag approaches him to remove the chain but strategically blocks his view. Suddenly, Furiosa comes at Max with a spear! My god, a spear! On this day, I see clearly everything's come to light. Sorry. Furiosa and Max fight and eventually, Nux joins in too. Max is able to take a gun from Furiosa and apprehend her. Nux thinks Max and him are buddies now, but Max punches him and leaves with Furiosa's truck. Eventually, the truck stops. Furiosa and the women catch up to Max. Max decides to wait, but Furiosa manages to convince him to run with them. Meanwhile, Nux manages to climb on the moving truck. Further down the road, Furiosa sees Gastown boys approaching them from the flank when suddenly, the truck becomes troublesome. Max goes out to investigate and fixes the hydraulics. However, Nux ambushes Furiosa inside the truck. The women apprehend him, however. Max informs Furiosa that bullet farmers are approaching from the other side. Eventually, the women throw Nux out. However, he managed to grab one of the pieces of their clothing. He runs toward the approaching enemy. Furiosa and the crew approach the passage where she's made a deal. Max and the rest hide because Furiosa is supposed to be alone. Furiosa tells Max that when she yells out "fool," he's supposed to drive the vehicle as fast as he can. She instructs him on how to activate the truck. They approach the passage, but it's quiet. Furiosa comes out of the vehicle and starts to unload the gasoline for the deal she made with the bikers that kinda look like a bunch of Chewbaccas. Suddenly, enemies start approaching and Furiosa signals Max to drive. Meanwhile, Immortan brings on board Nux, who has the piece of clothing. Immortan pursues Max. Max drives while the bikers attack their truck. Furiosa retaliates and shoots at them. Meanwhile, Angharad starts to go into labor. Max and Furiosa become buddy cops and effectively and successfully repel the Chewbacca riders. Immortan catches up to them and is about to shoot Furiosa. However, Angharad blocks the view and distracts Immortan, who claims that the child is his. Furiosa manages to reload in time and shoot at Immortan. However, a crewman blocks the bullets. Nux volunteers to ride aboard Furiosa's truck because he knows his way in. Immortan promises him eternal life in Valhalla if he accomplishes this task. Fanboying almost on the verge of tears, Nux jumps on the truck. However, his chain gets stuck. Immortan is disappointed and does a Thanos. He does the task himself and maneuvers in front of Furiosa's truck. As Immortan corners them, Angharad hides and escapes. However, as she's climbing back to the truck, she falls. Immortan tries to avoid road killing her, but instead swerves into a hill and rolls over. Max tells Furiosa that she went under the wheels and insists that they keep moving forward toward Green Place. The women cry in pain. Desperate, Cheeto runs and tries to go back to Immortan. However, she's stopped by the more rational girls. Gosh, Cheeto, where was your head the whole time? The protagonists are far from the enemies now, so Furiosa does some repairs on the truck. Meanwhile, Capable volunteers as the lookout. Suddenly, she sees Nux all depressed because he failed his mission. Capable comforts him. At night, the truck gets stuck in the mud, which is very bad, considering they're still being pursued. They replace the tires and plant landmines as the enemy approaches. They go boom while Max and the crew escape. Meanwhile, Angharad gets a cesarean, but Immortan's baby is dead. Immortan, also stuck in the mud, laments his supposed heir's death. However, his ally, the bullet farmer, continues the pursuit of Furiosa. Max's truck gets stuck again while the bullet farmer approaches and shoots randomly. Nux comes out of hiding and helps the crew, instructing them on a safe passage. Meanwhile, Max returns fire with a sniper, but fails to kill the enemy. He hands the gun over to Furiosa, who successfully shoots the enemy and blinds Bullet Farmer. Max ties the truck's chain to a tree. However, Bullet Farmer makes a dramatic entrance and buffets them with bullets. The truck successfully gets, unstuck thanks to Nux. The crew barely escapes, however, the Bullet Farmer still approaches them. As they stop, Max instructs Furiosa to go further down the road as they cool the engines down. Meanwhile, he'll deal with the Bullet Farmer. Furiosa is shocked at this character arc, but lets him do his thing anyway. Max retaliates against the Bullet Farmer and returns successfully with machine parts in tow. And a little bit of blood on his head. You know, just a little old concussion probably. Toast is concerned, but Furiosa tells her it's not Max's blood. Oh, so no concussion then. The crew is able to get away. The next day, Max wakes up to his nightmares. Furiosa tells him to get some rest. Later, she reveals that she was stolen from her birthplace, Green Place. She reveals to Max that she's looking for redemption. Later, Furiosa sees a trapped woman in a tower. However, as they approach her, Max tells them it's bait. Yep, a naked, sobbing woman on top of a tower? Definitely a bait. Furiosa alone approaches the woman anyway because she's tough. She reveals her identity and suddenly, riders appear and they welcome her. Furiosa tells the old woman that she can't wait to take the Victoria's Secret models to the Green Place. Unfortunately, the women reveal that Furiosa and the crew have already passed it, and that the Green Place exists no more. Furiosa is pretty much wrecked by this information. She breaks down in anguish. At night, the crew rest with the old woman. One old woman shows Dag some seeds she took from the Green Place. She tells her that back then, because supplies were abundant, there were no killings. Meanwhile, Furiosa talks to Max, who's fiddling with something. She tells him that they're going to leave the truck behind and ride on a motorcycle instead. Furiosa tells Max he's more than welcome to come with them, but he turns her down and tells her that she's too hopeful. He's basically a nihilist at this point. In the morning, Max is left behind by Furiosa's crew. However, he changes his mind after seeing the visions of his daughter he failed to save. He tells Furiosa that they need to go back to Immortan's place because it has all the resources they need. Max asserts that if they take down Immortan, they at least have a chance at a new life, instead of riding 160 days in the other direction with nothing but salt. Max convinces Furiosa and they clasp their greasy hands together. As Max and the crew head back, Immortan sees them and gives chase. Immortan's battalion swarms Furiosa and the crew. They begin to shoot harpoons to hold the war rig back. Max cuts through the harpoons. However, more enemies come and they land on the rig. Max deals with them while one of the women shoots. Some of the women die unfortunately, as Immortan's crew begins to overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Quantity over quality though, am I right, Immortan? Max almost gets shot, but his crazy vision made him jerk his hand up, saving his face from a not-so-friendly projectile. Toast gets taken by the enemy. Meanwhile, Max regains his consciousness. He repels the enemies on top of the truck but loses his balance and falls. However, he is saved by Furiosa, who grabs him by the feet. Suddenly, she gets stabbed in the side by an enemy. Nux fixes the engine and sees Max hanging on the rig's side. He kicks him toward the enemy so he can land safely. Nux, the real MVP. Max overtakes the enemy's car and drives it. Immortan approaches them while Furiosa struggles to stay conscious due to her injury. As they approach the passage, Max finds himself on the rock band's truck. Furiosa attempts to swerve against Immortan's overcompensating truck, but he gets in front of them and blocks their view. Furiosa climbs on Immortan's truck while Rictus fights Max. Furiosa manages to climb on the side of Immortan's truck. She grabs his mask with a harpoon, and as it's tied to the wheel, it rips Immortan's face off. Max manages to fend off the big dummy and jump over to Immortan's truck to save Furiosa. Dag takes the seeds from the dead woman and the rest climb over to Immortan's truck. Nux stays behind but urges Capable to go. However, as she's crossing over, Rictus reappears and wreaks havoc. Darn it, Max, I thought you had him! Nux separates the rig from Immortan's truck so Rictus won't reach his beloved Capable. As the truck crosses the passage, Nux gives Capable one last look before he sacrifices himself. He swerves the truck to successfully block the enemy from chasing after Max's crew. He dies in the process. Later, Furiosa lay dying as they're going back to the Citadel. Max helps her by puncturing a hole in her fluid-filled lungs so she could breathe. Furiosa loses consciousness, but Max is insistent on not letting her die. He gives her his blood. Typo perks, eh? Max holds Furiosa's head and finally tells her his name. Later, the crew reaches the Citadel. As they are welcomed, Max shows Immortan's dead body. The people rejoice at our hero. Max brings up Furiosa and the people cheer her name. Furiosa and the rest of the women get brought up to the platform. The water is opened and the people rejoice even more. Max looks at what he's done, proud that this time, he managed to save the people he cared about. What do you mean? I'm not crying. You're crying. As Furiosa looks for Max, she sees him below the platform. The two share one last look of gratitude before Max disappears into the crowd.
Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel.